Well, I was very young when I started it. So at first it was kind of like, oh, I'm doing whatever he's doing. And the more I grew up, the more I kind of, I'm more invested in a lot of the things that I do now. And for me, dance is my way of preserving the culture and my way of kind of keeping it alive. Now, I love dance and, the things that I do, but when I was younger, I never understood why I was doing the dances I was doing, And it was also kind of like, I was kind of like the one out of the ordinary, where you don't really see a lot of Charya dances or God dances that are happening, but for my dad, it was like his own world. It was very normal for him. Would I say I'm doing it for him? At first, yes, but now I've understood the level of where we stand in culture and why it is so important, or why it's even a question right now of, like what you're asking what is culture? Like you said, it's a very, a big question. You can't just answer that in one sentence, culture is this. It's not that easy. But I think with what we have right now, bringing that up, or being able to show people what is culture, or making them at least understand a little bit of what is culture, is something that we should be able to do, or we can do, so that we are able to, like you said, preserve it and bring it into our newer generation.
Cool. So basically, in the beginning, you followed your dad, but now you yourself realize how important it is, and now you are doing it for your own, right? That's very good. Okay, Shilu, what do you think? Why it is important to transfer culture to younger generation?
I think it's again, it's a really vague question, so it's something that you can't explain that much. But this culture is kind of something you pass down to generation to generation, and you also modify it as you go. And it's not something that stays the same all the time. As if we go on throughout the year, it'll obviously not be the same. We have to modify it to where we're living, where we are at the moment. Because obviously right now we're not in Nepal, we're in America, so you just got to change it as you go. I think it's very important that everyone is exposed to culture and everything. They know their culture, because it helps them gain a confidence inside of them. They're able to say, oh yeah, I'm from here. It's you're exposed to this atmosphere so much that you find it very normal. It's not it's something weird or out of the normal.
Right. Yeah, I like what you said actually. It is important to transfer the culture, but it has to be evolved, right? It has to, we have to add up how can it be transferred efficient way. Right? I'll come back to this later. Actually, that's the main theme of this session, how should we evolve and whether it is right or wrong, right? Okay, let's go to Robbie. What do you think? What was the question? Okay, the question was why it is important to transfer culture to the younger generation. In your perspective, is it even important or not?
It is important.
Let's get some different answers.
It was, culture, I define culture as our personal background. It defines who we are as people, it's to differentiate people, it's who we are, it's our personalities. And so I feel
Just a second. At the end, can you please, hello, my sorry, go ahead.
And sorry, I feel it's very important to pass down our backgrounds and our way of life, basically, to the younger generation, to preserve the Newah culture in America.
Good. Mala, what's your point on this?
I agree with everyone. To add on to what Shiva said, I say that culture is tradition, and specifically what our parents went through. I think it's very important to bring or pass down culture, because we live in America, which is such a melting pot of different cultures, religion, background, anything. It's very easy to get lost in what's normal, what's not normal. So I think it's very important to be in touch with your roots and your heritage.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we have representative from NOA. Let's hear from.
Okay, yeah, I am representing from NOA, but mostly I'll be talking about myself as well, how I feel and what's my opinion on it. To me, culture is more like a value, a good system, the norm, believe that I got it from my great-great-grandfather, and I want to actually use it and pass it to my new generation because I really believe in it, and there is a lot of good value on it, and I want to use to carry on. I'm seeing it, I value it more after having come to the United States because when I was in Nepal, while we were doing it because my parents used to do it and I just follow, I just read with them. But now, here I realize if I don't do it, how would my daughter learn it? So that's the reason that I joined most of the, culture, festivals, ceremonies. I want to see, at least, I mean, even if she does not understand, see her. And that's how she will be interested and learn more. That's why if I don't use it, it is more like, to me, it's inviting to exchange. So I don't want to come to that situation.
Yes, I think we all of us agree that the culture has to be transferred one way or other. And any comments from audience on this topic? Anyone have any remarks or anyone wants to pitch in here? No? Okay, let's move on. Okay, Sangeeta, you have been working on this Nepal Bhasha, Newah language for a while, right? You made the first animation movie in Nepal Bhasha. Why did you do that actually? So the reason I ask is, animation movie, I guess it's especially to attract the younger generation, right? So is it really important to use Newah language to teach the Newah culture? How important the language play actually? So that's what my.
That's very important and interesting question. So we just discussed what culture is, and everyone almost agreed that we have to get it from some party and pass it on to some other party. And we are the intermediate between two different generations, always. Exactly to come to the second question, why that movie and why that language, and whether it's going to help anyone. Or if it had any purpose to do that way. So we have to complete the first question in order to answer this. So culture, we just discussed how we are dealing with it, but then what exactly is the culture when we have to come back to it? I think it is our identity. In one word, if you have to sum it up. Your culture is yourself. My culture is myself. It's my identity. I cannot tell anyone what my culture is by just writing NEPAL anywhere on the walls. I cannot tell what my culture is by showing a flag with sun and moon and two colors. I have to tell them, this is my dress, this is my food, these are my festivals, this is my sculpture, this is my art, this is my music. I have to tell all of these things to identify myself as who I am. To tell people who exactly I am. So culture, to sum it up, is actually my identity and your identity. It's our identity, right? So now to get back to the second question, that first animated movie of Nepal, yes, I made it with the help of a lot of people like yourself, not just Roshan, with the help of everyone in NOA as well. NOA didn't need to bother actually. If someone is making a movie anywhere, in a different corner of the world, why should NOA even bother about it? But they did. And why did they do it? Because they identified with the movie. They related with it. They identified themselves with the project. And that is exactly why I think they did it. So now, the movie, when I was making the first animated movie of Nepal, that was a big baggage actually, because it's going to be the first one out there. Whether people will like it, how they will receive it, whether it's going to work or not, there was a lot of confusion and guesses, because it's a new one. It's the first thing that we're doing. Exactly like maybe sometime when you started NOA 21 years ago in the USA, you probably had a lot of confusion and questions within yourself. I had the same thing, but I got a lot of encouragement from people like yourself. And why we did it? Because we were moving towards a common goal, right? Now, when I was making that very important movie that stage, the first and animated movie of Nepal, I was making it with a backdrop of a Nepalese culture, right? Which had to do with Kathmandu Valley, which is basically Newah culture. You cannot really make it into in any other popular language in the world and deceive your audience by telling the truth in a different medium. You have to use the right medium to say the right thing. The true medium to say the truth. That is exactly why I did it in Nepal Bhasha. There was a lot of challenge because now when you make it in Nepal Bhasha, whether it will even be understood by half the population or not, maybe even 5% of the population or not. But we still did it because we had to do it. There was no other way to actually make the scene better for all of us. That is why, despite all the challenges, despite all the hard work, we actually decided to do it in Nepal Bhasha. At least our youngsters, the next generation, if they pick it up as okay, let's watch an animated movie from Nepal. It could be interesting. When they watch it, if they learn a single word of Nepal Bhasha, that is the success of the movie, not that we made a lot of money or we ever knew that we would ever make it. We knew small budget movie, small audience, we will never make it happen as a very big project, a very hit movie. But we still did it because we want, our success parameter was different. If our generation would understand a little bit of our culture, one or two words of our language, then the job is done. The movie did its, made its purpose. That is exactly what we did.
Thank you. So, what Lochan think about? So you speak very good Nepal Bhasha, right? So, but there are a lot of other people who don't understand, but we still do the events in Nepal Bhasha. Do you think it's right? Is it appropriate? Or do you think?
Sorry, could you repeat your question? Sorry.
We do all these events, NOA or NDP, all Newah, Nepal Bhasha or Newah based events in Nepal Bhasha, right? So for those kids who were born here, not all of them understand Nepal Bhasha. So what do you think? Is it still good to do these events in Nepal Bhasha, or do you think we have to switch? Otherwise,
first of all, I'm sorry. I actually love what you're doing with the fact that it's the first animated film, but also it's in Nepal Bhasha. That's something that you don't normally see come out with our community. But to answer your question, I'm not going to say what we do or the events we do and what we go through is not helpful. But the thing is, or at least with my own experience or with my experience with my friends and people that I hang out with, it's not as easy as it seems to be, because we do these events, we come in, we're going through a very long day, and most of the times, half of the things that we're doing here is also in English, right? Because we do have to combine both languages, we do have to combine English and Nepali, but the thing is, when we do incorporate that English part, it's like, you kind of give it away to the younger generation of, okay, we're doing it in Newari, but we also give it in English. So you can learn it, but you also have an easier option. But even before, what I would like to say to the audience or to the parents mainly, because what we get from, what we get in our tradition, our culture, we get from our parents or from our elders. It's kind of like, my parents always go through, whatever you show on the outside comes from what you learn on the inside, right? What you learn in your house is what you show outside. If you don't, and I'm not saying that it's a bad thing that you're not doing it, but preserving our culture, we talk about this, we're preserving our culture, or we're doing this, we're doing that, we have this NOA events, we have World NOA, NPPA, we have all of these events, all of these organizations that do a lot of great things for our culture. But the thing is, the main question that we're even here for is it really working? Is it really helping the children, right? If you don't start at home, it's not going to show outside, right? I learned Newari because of my dad. He's, like I said, he's crazy about the culture and keeping it alive, right? You have no idea what this meant. He's up 3 a.m. in the morning trying to prepare for a lot of the things that he does. He's crazy about this. And if I don't follow it, he yells at me or gets mad, which is pretty normal. But the thing is, my dad, to the extent of, I knew Newari when I was younger. I moved here and then I lost all of it. So when I came here, I knew English and Nepali. I didn't know Newari. Now, Newari is the root of my language. It's what I will speak when I go home. It's what I will speak with my grandparents. It's what I will speak with my aunts and uncles. Even though they know Nepali, yes, but Nepali is kind of like English, you know? It's like that language that everybody knows, but it's not the core language. Newari is our core language. So what my dad did, whenever I would speak to him, if it was Nepali or Newari, and if it was Nepali or English, he wouldn't answer me. Like, just dead silence. No, nothing, no answer. I'd be like, Dad, when are we going? Nothing. So that kind of like forces me. Yeah, so that kind of like forces me, you know, okay, now I actually have to speak in Newari to be able for him to talk back to me. And that's what he does. And that's what he's been doing with his grandchildren. My niece and nephew, that's how he teaches them Newari. He doesn't like speak any other language, just that, because he knows in himself, and he knows that in a family, you have to create that base point to kind of grow off of that. That is why I say, and that is why I want the parents and future parents to understand that if you're not going to teach them at home, then they're not going to reflect on it outside, right? If you don't teach it at home, your kids aren't going to come to these events and be like, oh, I want to learn Newari because they're talking in Newari here.
Yeah.
That's not how it is, because they have friends here, right? They have friends, they're in their own world, especially kids. You know, they have their own world, they're doing whatever they want, they're like run around, they're like in their own group. So half of the time they're not even paying attention. In my experience, I know that because I do that.
Yeah.
I'm like with my friends.
That's what we see
Yeah.
here, right?
And that's what we see here.
And I chose the exceptional panelists here.
No, this is what I'm saying. You know, you don't learn anything unless the people that are with you all the time, who are your parents, your brothers, you know, if they don't teach you at home, then you're not really going to learn it from somebody else. And that is why, like, I feel like he's doing a really good job where it's like he's creating this, you know, like, it's in Nepali pastime, right? And so you can use this opportunity to have this like animated film. When animated films come out, kids go crazy for it. If you just show, like he said, if you just show your child that like even like a short little video of it and they learn something from that, that's a huge success on your part, because they at least learned something that just came out of your culture and your
Okay, yeah.
heart.
So the bottom line is you are happy with what's happening here, right?
Teach it at home.
Yes.
Yeah.
Teach it at home. So don't complain that my kids don't come to events, right?
Teach it at home.
Yeah, okay, Shilu, what's your take on this?
So I've been lucky ever since I was a kid to be like I've been lucky enough to be exposed to different things. Like I've done dance for a long time. I've been to like Biz and like Newah, like, you know, and I've just been able to like come to these organizations and be exposed to all the different like Newah culture things. Also, it's also like has to be my family too. Like they're like a big part of this too. Ever since I was little, they would only talk in Newah, and they would only like, you know, really speak to me in Newah and everything. And so as growing up, I was able to pick up on Newah, not by them forcing me to or like encouraging me. I just like found it like, oh, like this is normal in my house, maybe I should start learning it. So I started learning Newah, and from that, also coming to these culture things, I realized how important it is and how much it like made me feel like I could understand what was going on. Like I actually understood. I'm not just sitting there being like, oh, what's going on? I can actually understand what people are doing and like what they have to say. Also, like same thing, I learned that also culture can be expressed in so many different ways. Like as a young kid, I've been doing dance and everything. So like I've expressed my culture through dance. Also, I've gone through other cultures like Indian classical and all those types of things to like really grow and expand my view on culture.
Okay, I think I might get some different answers from here. Okay, Oli.
Alright, so what they, Shilu and Lochini said is true, right? You need to teach your kids at home. But I think that like a majority of the people I know that come to these programs don't know Newari, and almost like don't want to learn, or they're sufficient with learning Nepali. So I think it's kind of counterproductive to have these like meetings and talk shows in Newari when many kids don't understand Newari, right? So they'll just do their own thing because they don't understand what you guys are saying. They can't comprehend what you guys are saying. So I think that if you spoke in Nepali, then they'd be a little more interested because they could tell what's going on and participate with the discussions.
Okay.
I also agree with Adi. Personally, I don't speak Newari, nor do I understand it very well, but I do speak and understand Nepali. Personally, I would dance to Nepali songs or Newari songs or Hindi songs or anything, but I wouldn't understand the lyrics, so I wouldn't know what I'm representing, basically. So I think it's beneficial to explain to your kids why you're doing it or what you're doing it for, because without an explanation, it's just oh, my parents do it, I have to do it. It's, I also think that speaking in Nepali is beneficial because mostly Nepali is what we speak at home. So if you can't speak back, but you can understand, I think that's beneficial more than Newari because not everyone does speak Newari. But yeah.
Yeah, so as I said, Lochini and Shilu, I know their family very well, and they are exceptional families here. So I think most of the population, the younger generation, is represented by probably Ovi and Mala, who don't understand. But let's not judge on this, okay? We are not judging anyone. Not understanding Nepal Bhasha, completely fine because they are grown here, right? If we expect them to learn Nepal Bhasha well, then why you are here? Go back to Nepal, right? So let's not judge them on this, please. So, okay, coming back to here. So as Ovi said, it's counterproductive actually, and I agree. I see a lot of people. So how many kids are here? Look, there are so many parents. We don't see kids. Why? Right. So what's your future plan now to attract those kids?
Well, definitely combinations of having programs in both languages will always be productive, definitely, and I don't deny on that one. However, I also want to stick to the point that we do have to use the Newah Bhasha as well. I'm again sharing my own perspective here, my own opinion, because I also grew up in Kathmandu, and my parents, my grandparents, everybody taught in Newari, but I was not forced to. And I'm one of those Kathmandus, maybe I understand everything, I cannot talk fluently. And that's one of the reasons that I was more attracted to NOA, because I wanted to learn. And again, my feeling is if I don't do it, then my daughter will not. She will be again away and away. And that's why I bring her here. She does not understand. I agree what you guys are saying. She does not understand. Maybe she will be less, attracted to the events happening. However, the pronunciation that we do, that equal her, ears. And that's how we try to attract. And that's how I learn as well. Just take an example of Bollywood. Our parents did not taught us. We just learned through watching movies and everything. If we have interest, if we somehow can create an interest, then people will learn it. These two kids have already been there. And again, parents have a lot of role to play here. Whatever we are taught here, if you just spend 5 minutes maybe explaining to kids, they will create an interest. I think that's how I see it.
Thank you. Any comments? Okay, Adi has something to say. Okay, Adi, is this question for a panelist or you can stand up and answer?
No, it's not for the day.
Oh, thank you.
So, what was included in the animated movie that told kids about the culture of Nepal and stuff.
What was the question, Adi?
What was included in the animated movie that told kids about
That's
the
the question is for
Nepali
Sayukta.
culture?
So what was in the movie that told about the
Right. Thanks for your question. Adi. Thanks, Adi. It's great to see someone stand from the audience and pose a question. Thank you very much, and you should be doing this more often, and everyone else as well. So what did the movie had, what was there in the movie that basically told the kids, was able to tell kids about culture? That's the question, right? So now we just learned from some of our panelists here how their parents took to their learning, how their parents didn't answer to them, maybe some of them, and things like that, right? So people have their own ways of teaching and learning. I probably couldn't do that, and because I was also involved in Pasapasakoti UK, it was also my kind of added responsibility not only to teach my kids, but the kids of the community, basically, right? So that was, the movie was one of those projects to make that, to try and do that, thing. The movie, and like I personally, so everyone has their own style. My way of teaching and learning is, what I've understood is, I learned about the culture of Newah community, my community, not because anyone told me to do that. My parents never taught me Nepal Bhasha, right? My parents were too busy. We were a very nuclear family. I never saw my grandparents, not as lucky as many kids, and they were too busy to kind of, earn their living, right? So they never had time to teach us culture and language, unfortunately. But at the same time, no one actually pressurized me. No one actually put pressure on me like, you have to do this, and in any way they could. Though the only reason I did it was because I felt that I had to do it. That was my own realization, right? And the movie was a similar, made in a similar way. I just didn't want to do what I never faced. No one ever told me to do something about the culture. So I didn't really want my kids or any kids, I just didn't want kids to I just didn't want to tell all the kids that you have to do this, you have to speak our language, you have to wear our clothes, and we have to eat our food. I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to make a movie. And if they watch the movie, in the movie, if they listen to our language, right? If they see our clothes, our dresses, food, festivals, if they listen to our language, and after having done all that, after having watched the movie, if they feel a little bit good about it, and if they find that, oh, I'm also interested, I might want to do this, I might want to try this, So if they tell themselves about learning something of the culture, that was the agenda. So that was the purpose. The movie is not very preachy. It never tells anyone to do anything. It just shows what we do. And it is up to the audience to watch it and whether to take it or not to take it. It depends on the audience and their intelligence, basically. Yeah.
Any more questions from